Why do we sleep? No one seems to know that either. Well, it's learning to move into a space. It's like we're called into that space. We have no choice about it. We have no choice about sleep, and we have no choice about death. And it's like sleep is a short version of death. I've got saying it's the feeling behind the thought is its vibration. But really, this is the most important thing. This is something that we should all be learning how to do. We should be taught it from an early age. It's learning to look within, and the fact that we aren't just a physical being. Death is it's the universal inevitable. It's the thing that we'll all go through, but we, as a general population, know so little about it because science is the ruling paradigm in this world regards to exploring the nature of reality. And unfortunately for science, it just hasn't got the tools to be able to deal with exploring the death state. The death state is something that can only be explored through personal inner exploration. We can get much, much better, much clearer results that way. And what do I mean by inner exploration? Well, the out-of-body experience is the key experience which will teach one how to explore the afterlife. It gives one an immediate sense, once one experiences it, that life is possible without the physical body. And you can carry on and you can explore worlds which are very much like the physical world, but aren't the physical world. So there is this dimension which exists just, a hair's breadth away from where we are right now. And it's an area of consciousness, another state that we can tune into. And when you experience that via an out-of-body experience or a lucid dream, it just becomes blatantly obvious that space is available to us. And it also, when you start to explore it a bit deeper and you get into experiencing things where you meet people who are deceased and whatnot, then it suddenly validates immediately that, okay, so this is where we go when we don't have a body anymore. When the body expires, this is where we go. And I mean, that tallies with all the thousands upon thousands of near-death experiences that are out there. If you read or study accounts of those, you'll see that the similarities are, well, they're hard to ignore. They're exactly the same as the experiences you can have via self-initiated out-of-body experiences while you're very much alive. So the fact that they're very similar and the fact that the accounts are very much the same in the fact you lift out of body, you go into this space, which is exactly what people tend to experience is when they have out-of-body experience in near-death state. The reports are, so paralleled that it's hard to think that it can be anything other. So when you go into those spaces as an out-of-body explorer and you do that regularly, what you find is you start to just naturally, without really trying, you start to come across people who live there permanently, people who have passed away, maybe people who've died. So when you do start experiencing that, and it's not like mediumship or something where you're sensing something, you're just with these people, and it's just like having a conversation here, just like meeting one of your friends as you do now. There's no change in them, they're exactly the same. And the experiences are undeniable when you do that. There's common disbelief in afterlife states. Why is that? Well, I think generally why that is because people are, we've got a doctrine really which is embedded in physical reality where we're told materialism is king and that is all there is. And because of that, there's this general lack of knowledge about it. People decide they're not going to even bother trying to explore something which they think is fanciful. They're not going to try and explore something that they think is not possible. Why would they? They think that's just, a false conclusion that there could be anything other than the physical world. That's the way we're born and raised. And then you've got the alternative, which is religion, and religion will teach you that there is an afterlife, and that's also a kind of universally widespread type of process on it, which is quite strange because obviously if it's we've got these two competing ideas: science, which says there's nothing, and religion, which says there is, and then in the middle is what I call personal spirituality, exploration, where we explore these things for ourselves, and that's the big proof, if you ask me. What do we know for certain about these spaces? Well, again, from the unique perspective of someone who has out-of-body experiences, you start to know things are there's a dynamic to the state. There's a certain rules, the same as there's rule sets in physics here. We know that we can't fly, for example, in physical reality. We know that we can only move at a certain speed. We know that we can, we're going to age. There's all sorts of rules here in the physical world. And likewise, in the death state, there is rules to that as well, and ways of movement. So we start to get to know specifics of that type of experience. So when we go in there, for example, we know that things are more malleable. The environments are more interchangeable. You can sort of, things are more thought responsive, so we can imagine things or expect things, and then they will appear if we ask in the right way. We can change environments. We can, walk through a door and something else will be there other than we're expecting it to be there, and so on and so on. So there's all sorts of different things which we can clarify for ourselves about these spaces. And one thing that is strikingly apparent to those that have explored these spaces a lot is that there's a general not knowing of those that are there, that they have actually become deceased. I think what happens to us when we leave the body, and this is the same in physical life, out of body experiences, where we get up from our body, is we're just the same person as we were when we were in it. And likewise in dreams, we often don't realise that we're having a dream, because that's your standard non-lucid dream. But if we have a dream where we do become aware, then it changes the game a little bit. And I think in the death state, it can be something which we don't generally know has occurred. We get up, we're carrying on a life much as we normally do in physical reality. And that creates this sort of non-realisation in those that have died that they are actually dead. Well, some practical steps we can take in order to explore these ideas for ourselves is to learn to have these self-initiated out-of-body experiences. This is something that's so important to mankind to learn how to do. I mean, it's something which is widespread. Lots of people have had these things where they get pushed to the side of their mind, but really this is the most important thing. This is something that we should all be learning how to do. We should be taught it from an early age. It's learning to look within, and the fact that we aren't just a physical being, we are something way more than that, and we can exist non-locally. It's not like our consciousness is just contained within our mind, within our body. It's something that is beyond that. It exists as a part of a much larger whole. It's something that we need to learn to explore. So delving in and learning how to have these self-initiated out-of-body experiences is really key to our understanding what the makeup of this life is. So it's looking within, it's learning to move within that space, treating the mystery that is sleep, for example. Why do we sleep? No one seems to know that either. Well, it's learning to move into a space. It's like we're called into that space. We have no choice about it. We have no choice about sleep, and we have no choice about death. And it's like sleep is a short version of death. It's like we move into that space. We're constantly in contact with the non-physical. Even thought is a non-physical thing, and it drives all of our physical actions. And if we get used to the fact that there is a non-physical realm, it's right right in front of us. The fact that we're even thinking right now about anything that's existing in a non-physical space. So getting used to the fact there is a non-physical world, and the fact that we can move into it and explore it in with all our five senses intact, is something that is the most important thing that we can do for ourselves to prove that we are more than physical. We are beyond physical. In fact, we're just projecting from somewhere non-physical into this physical vehicle for the duration of our lives. So learning these skills is one of the most important things we can do for ourselves to really get a gauge on what life is actually about. Meeting people in the afterlife, when we meet people who we know are deceased in the afterlife, or in these out of body states where it becomes apparent it is a state in which these people who are deceased are living, it comes with a certain sense, a resonance to them. There's just a feeling, and an immediate feeling which is telepathic, which kind of teaches you or shows you straight away that this person is formerly a physical being and they are deceased and they're in this space. So if you don't know them, so obviously if you know them, you'll know whether they're dead or whether they're not dead. But if it's somebody who you don't know, it comes with a certain feeling, and there seems to be this. I don't know. There seems to be this part of ourselves which, when we're in these projected states and we're traveling back and forth between physical and non-physical, whilst we're still alive, there's something about us. I don't know what it is. Some sort of feeling we obviously exude into the environment, which means that we're attractive to those that are dead, and they sort of come to us after a certain period of time of exploring these spaces. It's like once you become initiated to and it becomes familiar to you, they just appear, they just come to you, and you get a very good sense of who's deceased and who isn't. And there's something about knowing those states and having your awareness within it, which it kind of makes your natural instinct to help come out. You want to assist, you want to help with people with their state, and learning about the dynamics of it and how they can move through it and how they can navigate and how they can move on to higher states of awareness beyond their initial environment that they find themselves within and habitually continue with. Moving on to states beyond that is it's like an ascending process higher up into the deeper states of awareness, the higher realms of consciousness, what would be described as the higher heavens or the nirvana or something like that. And when I talk about heaven, I'm not talking about Christian heaven, for example. I'm just talking about states where higher awareness is prevalent, and it's only when you have to raise your awareness to enter those spaces. It's not like they're closed or it's not like they're shut off, but they're just separate from lower states of awareness, and it's a continuum. There's not a difference in state, but you won't enter those spaces unless you raise your awareness to be able raise your. I hate using terms like it, but raise your vibration. And what do I mean by vibration? Because vibration, that's a very loaded term. It sounds very hippie and whatnot. But if you think about this, the feeling, I've got saying, it's the feeling behind the thought is its vibration. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you have a thought, it is accompanied by a feeling. So if something is of lower vibration, it makes you feel bad, negative, or depressed. That's obviously low. We even use those terms. I'm feeling a bit low. When we're talking about higher vibrations, when we feel love, when we feel happy, when we feel elated, when we feel ecstatic, those are higher vibrations, and those are two separate things, and they can't live in the same space. So it's just a case of being able to raise your awareness, raise your frequency of your consciousness in order to be able to enter those spaces. And it takes a little practice, but it's very simple, very practical. We all know what it feels like to feel bad, and we all know what it feels like to feel good. So if we can direct our thoughts to those feelings which are positive and uplifting, then we can enter those spaces.